And so we'll get along with Tom, Dick, and Harry, but when you see me, you upset, you want to fight. Because your own reflection makes you frown. Your own reflection. Let me tell you something. We can talk about all of the, and now the other side is using it against us. We can talk about all of the problems with police brutality and all of that, and we should talk about it because it's a problem. But let me tell you something. Nobody hurts us more than us. Black on black crime is through the roof. When you look at me, you don't see a brother, you see an enemy. And we walk past each other, and sometimes you get the head nod. When you get the head nod, you breathe out, you exhale, right? When you get acknowledged, because you see me and I see you, and we see each other and we walk by and we give each other the head nod. You know the head nod, don't you? You gotta give the head nod. So the head nod is the black assalamu alaikum. You don't get a head nod. Can I get a witness? You don't get a head nod back. It's a problem, bruh. Everybody's tense. Huh? You ever had that happen? Yeah, you're walking down the street and you're passing another brother. If you don't get that head nod, I guarantee you walking down like that. You on guard. All of a sudden, you on guard, bruh, because anything can jump off at any time. You know? So we have that interpersonal problem. But that's a different story for a different day. But when it comes to immigrant version of Islam, because we wrap our arms around people, we take to Islam like pigs take to slop. So we run to Islam, and when we get it, we just go to the other end. So now we don't even recognize ourselves. Right? Now we don't recognize ourselves. I've met some brothers, I swear to you, they think they're from Saudi. I was telling the imam, my wife and I had a brother in Jersey come to our house, and our daughters were there, at least 3 of our daughters, and he's from Harlem. Born and raised in Harlem. Like me, we are both New Yorkers. This brother wasn't like the imam who went to Saudi and studied and spent 4 years there and all that. He is just a regular dude from Harlem. He's talking to my daughters, and he's talking to them about Islam. And at one point, he says to them, I'm trying to tell you, what's the word in English? Brother, what's the word in English? You so Islamified, you forget your own language now? And this guy doesn't even speak fluent Arabic. He puts Alhamdulillah, MashaAllah, and Allahu Akbar in one sentence. All of a sudden now, he can't remember English. What's the word in English? It's a true story. That's identity dysphoria. Because now you confused, bruh. Now you confused. And now, since I got on a thobe, and you have on your little fly outfit, and you know what I mean, you doing what you do, I'm halfway hating, but I'm not going to say that because I'm on, the stream type joint, right? But you come out and we meet in the bathroom and we walk by each other, you know what I mean? And and I recognize you, you recognize me, and we sit and we start talking and we realize that we're both good looking. Right? And you complimenting me, I'm complimenting you, even though you didn't know I was kind of mad at the chain and all that. But I'm just saying, we cool. Right? Now, in different situations, what happens is I judge your Islam by that. And I come out the bathroom feeling like I'm more of a Muslim than you. Right? That's the problem. That's the problem. Because I can see you making wudu, and I can make wudu next to you like how we did. And I know that you are my brother, and I love you for the sake of Allah, as long as you keep giving me that oil. I'm just saying. So that's the identity problem, right? And when it comes to the second part of your question as to why we are not compassionate to each other, it grows out of that first problem. It grows out of that first problem. Because now we don't see each other as allies. Now we are competing to the point where we are trying to gain points up on each other. Right? It's a problem. We need to be more compassionate and we need to be more sensitive. So who on this side had the question? All right, do you have the mic? Or is Brother Hamid first? All right, so we have one here, and then we're going to take a break and come back and start filling this out, right?
All right, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Use that. Yeah, you impress somebody in here. All right. Yeah.
So, I think most Muslims and, a lot of us that enter Islam come into Islam believing that Islam will make our lives better, right? And I think that we can all agree that Islam is supposed to make our lives better, right? So when people are getting married and they're trying to form families and they're trying to come together, what questions should they be asking themselves, right, when they're interacting with a partner or interacting with a person that they're planning to marry? What question should they be asking that person? What question should they be asking themselves to making sure they're applying the right aspects of Islam to find a healthy partner, right? Because I know a lot of us are bringing in, like you said, past traumas. We're coming from Jahiliyyah. We're coming from Christianity. So a lot of that's entering into our relationships. But how do we filter out people that we should not be interacting with or we should not be trying to marry in that process by using Islam as a part of that process?
All right, so my brother is helping me answer that question. So what he is passing out is a premarital trauma-informed questionnaire. This is a questionnaire of the questions that you should ask a prospect in the sit down. And you can fill it out together, and it's a workbook that you and your husband can go through together as well when you go home. Growing up, how did your family express love and care? Very important question. Because you want to know what he knows of expressing love and care. How were conflict and emotions handled in your home. Some people see, yeah, over here. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. For those of you online, give us a minute here. My assistant is, what's your name, brother? Pone. Huh? Pone? Like Al Capone? Yeah, he said not the Al, just Pone. He said that's how I do it. So how many seen their parents back in the day have an argument or a conflict growing up? Huh? Don't be ashamed. Raise your hands high. All right. How many seen, not after, but how many of you who had your hands up seen the process of how they made up? Just 3, 4, 5. The question is, how many have seen the conflict and emotions in their home? How many seen their parents like arguing and all of that? You know, you've seen your parents argue, but you rarely see them resolve it. All you know is they're talking again. And everything is all right. Again, I'm going to come to you in just a minute. Right? So, in other words, we understand conflict, but we rarely understand the resolution. Were there times in your childhood or adulthood when you felt unsafe? Now, that's a question most people would never ask. Okay? Was there ever a time where you didn't feel safe? I'm talking about any time. Okay? How comfortable are you expressing your emotions to others, Brother Hamid? So these are questions that, what do you need from me as a partner to feel emotionally safe? How many ever ask that to their partner or in a sit down? What do you need from me so that I can make you feel safe emotionally? What do you need from me? Okay? How do you typically respond when you feel rejected or criticized or abandoned? What are your boundaries for privacy and space? My wife will tell you, I like my space from time to time at home. You know? I like my space. You know? How can you and your partner integrate healing, faith, or self-care into your marriage? You can ask a prospect, yo, how are we going to do this other than making salat together? How else do we integrate our faith in this situation that's about to happen? Right? What personal healing work do you feel needs your attention before marriage? What do you feel you need to do to heal yourself before marriage? These are questions that you can ask somebody. And if you're married, it's a good way to spend a Friday night. After the Netflix, this is how you chill. All right? Now, I'm going to have, I think there was, okay, that was the question here. And this sister here, somebody bring her the mic. Who? Right. Oh, okay, so that was your question, Hamid. Okay, so the brother, yeah. And after you finish, bring the mic over here, please. And this is going to be the last question before we break. We already prayed the salah. So yeah. Yes. So that's why we're going to just take a break and come right back. and finish up. We'll be finished by 4.
Sorry, Tallah. Okay,
Yes.
alhamdulillah, just show appreciation. Thanks for coming. The Imam inviting you, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
I just came probably towards the tail end of Salat. So just
Yeah, leave the mic up against your mouth.
forgive me if I repeat a question that's already been asked. So my question is, how are the professionals in the Muslim community, how are the professionals and the religious leaders intersecting with these issues after about approximately 50 plus years of Islam in America, right? You're talking about 3-4 generations of Islam in America, where we can come up with solutions that have professional solutions with Islamic sources,
Okay.
right? So yeah, I'll just leave it there.
All right, bring the mic over here, go around here. Thank you for that. One correction, Islam has been in America much longer than 50 years, but I get the point, okay? The point is, I think in the African American community, what is the intersection of the religious scholarship with other forms of scholarship? How does it come together? Well, it comes together like this, Aki. This is how it comes together. I mean, this is the reason that I'm here. I'm not an Islamic scholar, you know. My scholarship is in law and psychology. So it comes together like this, right? It comes together with the board and these imams and the management of the community, inviting people like myself, like Sister Isla, and other scholars that are here in order to share their scholarship with the Ummah if there is an intersection with their scholarship and the Ummah, and 9 times out of 10, there is. Right? 9 times out of 10, there is. I mean, there's not a school here. There's not an Islamic school here. So you need educators. Okay? You need people with scholarship in education to be able to put this together. Right? There's not a daycare here, an Islamic daycare. You watch on TV and YouTube and all of these places, these kids that's 2 and 3 reciting Quran. How you think that happened? They wasn't born that way. Right? Instead of telling them, shut up, be quiet, go in the back, teach them something. Teach them stories of themselves. Teach them pride in who they are. You know, we can have daycares. And we need educators. Right? One of the masjids that we were at in New Jersey, when we lived in South Jersey, that masjid had a health center connected to the masjid. And they had 2 Muslim doctors and a Muslim nurse, and they provided free health care for the community. And that free health care was subsidized by the local, state, and federal government. Right? Because the health center can take Medicaid and Medicare, and people with private insurance can pay that way. So they offered a service to the community, but there was also an opportunity to be self-sufficient. So if you have a doctor, a psychologist, a nurse in the community, you don't think these people around here will come? If you have a dentist in the community, you don't think the neighborhood will come? Right? I mean, there are things that can happen. And so that's the marriage of scholarship and the religion, right? It's very possible, and alhamdulillah for Imam Mustafa and the board here, as he leads the board with Hamza and Musa and Hamid and others, and as the board cooperates together to make this happen. But let me tell you something, brother. Let me tell you something, brother. Are you a member of this masjid? Okay, well, it's not too late. I disagree. Yes, yes. But my point in asking that question is, this is your masjid. And the people, the members, must take ownership in what goes on in the community. If you are not, if you are just visiting, and this masjid is just a place, and not you, beloved, but I'm saying we all have to have an investment in the space. And change not only comes from the top down, but change, effective and sustainable change, also comes from the bottom up. So if we take ownership in where we are at, then we can make these suggestions. We can make these suggestions to the board and to the imam. And we can have ownership, and in that way we can be the solution that we're looking for. Too many times we sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. Be the change that you want to see. Be the change that you want to see. Sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So my question is, when attempting to build families, right, when we're looking to get married, and you've done the questions, you've asked the questions, and you have been able to identify what each other's traumas are, how do you discern between what's workable trauma and trauma that you just shouldn't entertain, especially as a woman?
Well, it depends on, I mean, all trauma, because trauma is not just, you see, trauma is something different. Okay? And we'll talk about that more in the next few minutes here. Trying to keep my eyes on the clock, right? So, what the research shows is that if you have 10 people experiencing an event, 30% of that amount of people are going to be traumatized by the event. So in my example earlier, if all of a sudden, and may Allah protect us from that, if all of a sudden we hear gunshots in here, and assuming there were only 10 of us in here, everyone ducked under the table, and after we under the table, we realize that it's not somebody's car backfiring, that it's real bullets flying, okay? And that event takes place for about 5 minutes, because that's a long time when you have such an event going on, okay? And when we get up after it's over, 3 out of the 10 people is going to be traumatized. Let me give you another example. You all live in a family, and husband, wife, and 3 kids, okay? 3 boys, okay? husband and wife. The father and mother used to fight all the time, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally. And they end up getting divorced. Okay? Out of those 3 kids, 30% is how much? How many? One of those 3 children is gonna have trauma. Well, how does that trauma show up? Okay? He gets real emotional every time he talks about his parents. He is the one who always tries to get his parents, mother and father, back together. He has a problem with relationships now because he feels that the girl he's dating, he asks her all these questions. Do you really love me? Are we going to be together forever? Okay, because he has abandonment issues because his mother left. Okay, when she gets upset with him in the courtship or dating, if they have an argument, he doesn't argue back because he's afraid that will cause her to leave. Now, when you ask the other 2 kids, how did your parents' divorce affect you? They'd be like, it was all right. I mean, I didn't want it to happen. And they all experience it together. But if I ask them, so why is Raheem the way he is? They'll say, well, Raheem, he's the middle child. He's always been a little soft. We don't know what's wrong with Raheem. Raheem is always like that. He is always real sensitive like that. And so they make light of Raheem's response. But Raheem was traumatized. They weren't. Even though they experienced the same event, but 30% walked away with trauma. So when we talk about trauma, we are not just talking about experiencing something negative. We are talking about having a certain response to that experience that is adverse or negative, okay? And generally that response, let me tell you, 80% of what we experience as adults, 80% of our negative experiences is as a result of an adverse childhood experience. 80% of what happens you can trace back to your childhood. I mean, all of us, even as an adult. And 60% or more of our somatic illnesses, physical illnesses, I just always have this stomach problem. Or I'm just, I get these headaches. I don't know where it comes from. Okay? The first time I had a nosebleed, I mean, me personally now, the first time I had a nosebleed, I was almost I was like 30-something years old. My father had passed away, and I didn't cry right away, but the morning after he passed away, I woke up and my pillow was bloody because I had a nosebleed. And I was like, wow, what is this? And every time, or most times, that I get stressed as an adult, guess what happens? I have a nosebleed. That was my somatic, my body response to a stress reaction. And here's how trauma is defined. Trauma is defined as when you experience an event that overwhelms your ability to cope. It overwhelms your ability to cope. You can't cope, and your body reacts to the event. Okay? I'm going to end it here. Let's take 5 minutes, folks. Y'all don't leave. I'm going to take 5 minutes, and we'll come back, and we'll start going through these questions in the handout. Okay, 10 minutes? All right, so they're telling me 10 minutes. So you guys grab something to eat, grab some water, use the facilities, and come back, please. All right? We've got another 30 minutes before we end. All right? Just another 30 minutes. I know this is long. This is a marathon, but I hope it's good information, inshallah. All right, folks. Let's start bringing it back in. Let's start bringing it back in. Okay, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, let's start bringing it back in, please. We've got to sprint to the finish line. Okay? We've got to sprint to the finish line. So we can do this while you keep eating. Okay? We can do this while you keep eating. It's not a problem. I know how black folk is with food. So the key concepts, trauma is not only, and I'm reading from the sheet now, trauma is not only what happened to you, but it is how your nervous system learned to survive. Okay? Let's go straight to the reflection questions. And I want you all to answer, first reflect on questions 1, 2, and 3. All right? And when you finish answering that, if you want to write your answers down, do that. Now, this worksheet is double-sided, so if you want to answer that, write it down, answer it, and I need 2 volunteers from this side and 2 volunteers from this side to answer question 1. Well, I'll have the ladies answer question 1 first. All right? In moments of conflict, what does your body do first? So let me get a couple of answers here. Okay, 1 here. All right. Tell me. Okay. So your body tightens up when in moments of conflict. Okay. How do you recognize that tightening? Okay. Yes. So you get tense. Your body tightens up. Sister? Okay. So when they say on the street, oh, I'm tight right now, that's what they talking about? Are they talking about y'all? I'm real tight right now. Brothers, let me get 2 of you to answer. In moments of conflict, what does your body do first? Yes. Your body shut down. Okay, so tell me about that. No, tell me how that feels, like your body shutting down. Feel like somebody attacks you and your body just shuts down. It goes numb. All right, brother here. So you escalate, you get hype. It's like a rush. So during a conflict, you get froggy. You try to jump. Yeah, where you from? Yeah, in Baltimore? Yeah, yeah. So that's that aggression, right? No, it's aggression. Yeah, so let's not get into how you think about it. I just want to know, what is your natural response? Your natural response is aggression. Yeah. And that happens to a lot of people. I have a mix of that too. I have a mix of that. And that's the adrenaline gland kicking in. Okay? In times of conflict. Right? How were conflict and emotions handled in your family growing up? I'll stick with this side. Somebody else. Okay, brother back here. Now, listen to the question, guys. Follow me. How were conflict and emotions handled in the family that you grew up in? I can't hear you. So, when in your family that you grew up in, when there was conflict and emotions, it was handled how? By seeing it clearly? Both parties. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? He says in their family, what happened was during conflict is that they saw things clearly, who was right or wrong. And that's an interesting answer, right? Because when people talked about who was right or wrong, then it's a binary choice that they believe conflict, somebody has to be right and somebody has to be wrong, which, my brother, is not necessarily the truth. Conflict doesn't necessarily have to be a right or wrong issue. I'm not saying that your answer is wrong. Follow me. I'm not saying your answer is wrong. You call it like you saw it, right? But I'm just taking your answer as a teaching mechanism that I want you to know that conflict is not necessarily a binary choice of right or wrong. Yes, in the back. Wa alaikum salam. Now, are we answering the question here, brother? Because you got to answer the question. All right, this is a workbook here. All right? Now, I'll answer the question, but I'll only do it this one time. All right? Folks, I need you to stick to, otherwise we're going to get thrown off. Okay? So, your comment was, beloved, and I don't want to shut you down, but I want to be able to keep this going, right? So, we've got to always keep in mind everybody's standpoint, everybody's viewpoint in every conflict situation. But what I'm asking is, how was conflict and emotion handled in the family that you grew up in? Yes. Yes. Conflict avoidance. Very, very popular. All right? I'm seeing one here, then sister, you all the way down on the floor. I can barely see you, but I'm coming to you. Yes, sister with the green hijab. Okay. Okay. So in your household, conflict was just, it was just a fuss. It was a fuss. In the back? Right. So there was fussing, going back and forth in the households with the sisters in terms of the conflict. But one sister says that her mom used to mitigate the conflict by asking both sides to take their share of responsibility. Sister? Yelling and screaming, very popular. Yes, yelling and screaming, very, very popular. So let's go to the other side here. Turn the page. Okay, my trauma triggers map. To increase awareness of how past experiences shape present reaction. Identify your triggers. List some situations that tend to activate strong emotional reactions. So, brother, your trauma reaction was aggression or activation. Identify some of the triggers that cause you to go into that mode. Feeling disrespected. Tell me more about that. What is an act that will make you feel disrespected? Tone of voice, body language. Give me an example. Now, it sounds like you're referring to men. Yes. Right. Mine either. Right. Right. Are you married? Thank God. I mean that sincerely. You know? Because the brother is keeping it 100. Right? And a lot of us have had that experience, me myself, where you grew up in a household where you don't have a voice. And you grew up, you weren't able to say yay or nay or anything else. Children are to be seen and not heard, and so you don't say anything, and you kept that pent up, kept that pent up, kept that pent up. And today, at you in your 30s or your 40s? Your 30s? And today he's in his 30s, and his reaction to being pent up, to pent up emotion, is when he feels something, he gets aggressive. If he feels disrespected, he gets aggressive. And the reason I'm joking with him and telling him, well, thank God, because at least he's here and understanding how to work through those emotions. Because that's important. Working through those emotions. I just spoke to a young lady. Where's my Uganda sister? She left. Non-Muslim. Sitting right over there. She says, I'm from Uganda. I go to Johns Hopkins University. I'm a senior in college, and I'm doing my thesis